everybody. I'm very excited and extremely nervous. Very happy to see all of you. I would love today to talk about rank and power and sociocracy and how this might influence our work as a sociocracy practitioner. I just was in a session with Diane Leaf Christian, and I mean, she shared all her experiences and she talked for like an hour, bringing in ideas and information. This session here will be a little bit different. Besides the fact that I don't have Diane's experience, I would like to have more like an open workshop where we share our all experiences as experts in our own communities and community setups. And yeah, share about our experience when it comes to, are we all the same, or do we experience rank and power and hierarchy in communities, and how we can deal with it if this is happening. And yeah, before I start, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. Let me share my screen. I prepared a short PowerPoint. I hope you can all see it now, hopefully. Do you see like the perfect? Now I have to change this. This is always a bit challenging. So where I am. So yeah, my name is Steffen. I'm 56 years old, live in Germany in a community called Gastwerke, which is a medium-sized community, 50 people. We are a commune. That means we share our economics, like 100% of our income goes into one pot and we share that. So it's a community with, yeah, it's not just a neighborhood. It's really we're very strong together as a network, as people living together. I myself, I'm very engaged in the Global Eco-Village Network. I was a founding member of Gen Germany and was in the board of Gen Europe for a couple of years. And now I'm representing Gen in the International Network Steward Council. I don't know how familiar you are with Gen. I think it's not so popular in the US, especially. There's more the intentional community network. It's much, much bigger. But Gen is like, yeah, really a global network of communities, a couple of thousand communities from all areas of the world, basically, are part of this network. I'm a sociocracy teacher myself, and yeah, full-time moderator, facilitator. And I work quite a lot as a community coach, mostly for German-speaking communities. German-speaking means this is not my well, I have the privilege that I'm able to speak English, but it's not my mother tongue. So please forgive me if I have some bring in some mistakes here when it comes to the wording, but I do my very best. Yeah, are we all the same? Dealing with rank in communities is like the topic of this session, and for me, it's a really important and quite often underestimated topic. I really think that rank and power are a big subject in communities, but they're often a taboo subject in the communities I work in. The words hierarchy and which are at least irritating to many of the community members when I start working with communities. And there seems to be this mantra that we are all the same, which in many ways is right. I think when it comes for equal value and equal worthiness of all people, this is a great good, and it should not be. But at the same time, I think this thinking that we are all the same leads to the assumption that there are no hierarchies, no rank in our communities, basically because it shouldn't be. And that power and privilege are something bad that must be eliminated. Fact is that we as individuals are extremely different, and differences result in different competencies and therefore also different ranks and roles. And I firmly believe really that it doesn't help to ignore or fight this fact, but quite the opposite. We should reflect on this and make it transparent in our group, that we can deal with it consciously, and also includes sensitizing ourselves. So this is basically my set of values when it comes to this topic, and I would like to start to share a little bit about Arnold Mindell's process work. This is basically my reference when he uses the term rank. He uses the term rank to describe the sum of all privileges that a person has. And Arnold Mindell, I mean, there you can find different structures, but the one I really like is the three different ideas of rank and power: the socioeconomic rank, the contextual and structural rank, and the psychological and spiritual rank. And I will elaborate a little bit more on these. So when he speaks about socioeconomic rank, it's basically the rank we inherit or acquire. It includes skin color, gender, nationality, social class, etc., financial strength, physical strength and size, health, education, religion, martial status, sexual orientation, etc. So it's basically nothing we can change, but makes a difference if I approach a group a white man. You will perceive me probably different than I would be a colored woman. It does make a difference. And if you see me here talking to you as a 56-year-old, it makes a difference if I would be 22 talking the same stuff. It seems to be obvious, but I think it has quite an impact also when we talk in sociocratic circles. So this is the idea of socioeconomic rank. Then there is here contextual and structural rank. Rank within an organization or workplace, but obviously also within a community. How and where is my room placed? Do I have one of the nicer rooms, the bigger ones, or do I end up in a smaller one? How long have I been in my community? I'm a co-founder of my community. So whoever just joined the community like a couple of months ago will see me in a different way than him or herself. And I can speak from a position of somebody who started the community, who knows or claims to know everything about the history of the community, etc. So there's a certain rank. And that has an influence. We have a discussion in our group. It also makes a difference how popular I am. This is probably not so obvious, but some people have a good reputation in a group, some others don't, and it makes a difference when I make a statement. And there are many more aspects. I don't want to go into all of that, but this is something which I obviously can change and which can change different to my skin color and my hair. Then there's, as a third aspect of rank, there's a psychological and spiritual rank. Has something to do with life experience, how well I'm able to cope with difficult life situations, how balanced am I, how can I deal with a difficult situation in my community, how do I behave in stressful situations or in conflicts. All aspects do make a difference when it comes to my own position, community, and to my own rank in the community. What we would like to talk to you about, or where I would like us to interact with each other, is to talk about our own experiences, to share how we experience rank and power in our communities, especially in a sociocratic circle. So my idea for this week we are a rather small group. Maybe I thought we go probably in breakout rooms for a short moment, but probably we should still do that. I would give us like 5 minutes in breakout rooms to share some of our experiences and then come back, and it would be perfect if you could write them down and then post it into the chat. So how do you experience rank and power in your community, if you do live in a community, or in a community or working setup where you work with sociocracy? But before we do that, probably Oops, just stop sharing. My question, did it make sense what I just shared? Do you have any questions concerning my little introduction? Anything, yeah, you would like to comment on that before we go to breakout rooms? That was just a thumbs up, or you were raising your hand, Teal? You're fine. Okay. There's obviously much more to tell about process work and Arnold Mindell, but I thought I don't want to speak here for too long, but I'm rather curious about our own experiences. Actually, I just started a conversation in the Signal group we have here in the German-speaking Sociocracy scene, and asking the same question, and it was fascinating how fast people reacted, partly was rather emotional, because when we talk about sociocracy, it's always this idea, okay, we are all the same. We're here, we choose sociocracy because we are all the same in the circle. We have the same right to speak, power in terms of decision making, but sometimes, yeah, rank and power has some influence. I like to start breakout rooms, just also to give you the chance to interact a little bit more. And just give me 1 sec. And I think we just have like 4 breakout rooms, just for 5 minutes to get to know each other briefly and share some ideas, and then bring it back to the whole crew. So, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good conversation in your small breakout rooms. I just posted a question in the chat. I don't know if you can read it. I just read it out loud. And my question would be, what forms of rank and power do you experience in your community or the communities you work with? It would be nice to have some, to harvest some of your sharings in the group. And if you can also share your experiences in the chat, that'd be quite nice. It's not mandatory, but it would help us to have a little collection afterwards. You can use the chat. So quite curious, how do you experience power and rank hierarchy in your community? Anybody would like to share? And if you don't experience, even better, then I'm quite curious how you manage that. I'm not sure if I can pronounce your name correctly, but Pare?
Yeah, Teal in our group brought up a really interesting topic around contribution, meritocracy, and perceived rank, as opposed to others' perception, which I think is more about dynamics of power. Maybe Teal can flesh that out a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Teal.
Yeah, just like, you can, certain people rise in the ranks of responsibility according to whatever that group decides is like valuable, right? And I think that's it can be really hard, and because then maybe some of the group really respects like those people that are having a lot of responsibility, and then others are maybe resenting them for having more responsibility than they think they should have in their perceived rank. And so I think that it creates quite a difficult dynamic, especially when you're not talking about it at all. Really, it's just kind of happening, and it's not. Yeah, so I think, I don't know if that is what if that makes sense, but that's what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks very much for sharing that. I tried to write down some notes in the chat, so don't be confused if the chat sign is popping up. Thanks very much. It's not about right and wrong here. It's just about how you experience it. Anybody else who would love to share? Jamie.
Yeah, so I'm part of a forming co-housing community, and I guess I'm one of the driving forces. But what's kind of interesting is our small forming group is primarily made up of women, it's all women and myself. And so I find myself wanting to drive things forward, but also wanting to not just fall into traditional gender roles, and not to assume that that my way is the right way because I'm the guy there. But I'm struggling in getting our women to step up. So, I guess it's just kind of the group that we have, but we're trying to initiate. We haven't settled on a governance path, but we're trying to. I guess I'm trying to initiate some sociocratic ideas of just trying to work on some group agreements and things like that, and as we study our values and so forth.
Yeah, thanks very much for sharing that. And I can imagine that happening in different ways in many communities, especially the gender aspect. How do you deal with that? Kevin was sharing in the chat that they did I read it right? Suffer from the founder syndrome, or experience. No, suffer comes from me. Sorry, you just wrote intentional experiences, founder syndrome. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that?
I think it's difficult for founders not to have some of that perspective, but I think it's really important as a community grows to let go of some of that and to embrace collaboration and to be open to the value of the perspective of newer members, which might be different than your own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure there's much more, and it would be nice if you can add some more aspects in the chat. For me as a sociocracy trainer, it is very challenging sometimes to deal with this topic. Besides the fact that in many communities I work with, they in a way would like to ignore that aspect, that there are some perceived or sometimes also on paper hierarchies in the group. And if it's not transparent and if I'm not allowed to talk about it, it's very difficult to handle it. Even so, I might feel it as a facilitator in the group. Okay, they are not the same. There is a founder and there's probably the new member who just joined 2 months ago. How do you deal with this when you are in a circle, facilitating or as a member? Do you have any experiences you can share here? Or how do your groups deal with it? Is it a topic that you mention in the groups you're working with or you're living in?
Hi.
Anna, hi.
Hi. I just to get the conversation going, I was just thinking of giving my thoughts. I don't have experience. I was wondering if just asking everyone's feelings about it would be a good start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. There's somebody from the Jesus People group. What can you share? Yeah, it's difficult to unmute button if you're in a big group, not in front of you.
End of the picture here. It's such a complicated topic from my point of view. I've been at Jesus People since 1977, so you do the math. but there's an element of power in my perception, what my perception of my power is, and then an element of power in how other people look at me that I don't have access to necessarily. And we do talk about that kind of stuff sometimes because it's dynamic and it's a reality. There's a constant shift and flow. I'm 66 now, and as a 66-year-old, I feel less powerful some days than I did, and not just physically, but as far as a voice in the community than I did as a younger person. But is that necessarily so? Or is it my perception? They're really interesting dynamics and not easily sorted out. That was all I had to say.
Yeah, thank you. I once made a very interesting experiment in a group, and I asked somebody, a member from the community, to make us to rank the different people who are present in the room in terms of where do they perceive them of hierarchy. Is there somebody who has more power than others? And then to have like a power line. And it was very interesting to see that this person was very clear who she in this case perceived the different people, and that she had a clear distinction between who has power and who has no power, or less power anyway. And it was a very difficult conversation afterwards in the whole group, because people felt treated in a wrong way. Oh, I'm not powerful. Nobody wanted to take over this power position. They felt even ashamed for being perceived as more powerful than others. And I think this is really a problem in this sort of setups, that people do have power, but sometimes have a powerful position. And in terms, because they want to ignore it and they don't want to take over this position, it's not and it's very difficult to deal with. So one way I deal with this topic is that I make it a topic, that I ask when I work with groups. Okay, how do you deal with it? Do you think you're all the same? How can you make sure that when you talk in a group, like in a Sociocratic circle, which I think is a perfect tool, that people who have probably less power will be heard, and that you make it transparent when people with a lot of power take a strong position, that values this, but at the same time you make it obvious, okay, this comes now from a powerful person. But are there any other opinions on that? How do you think about it, even if you just joined, or even if you're much younger? And I wonder if you have different ways of dealing with it, something you can share in terms of experiences. How do you deal with a power imbalance in a Sociocratic circle? Because at the end, everybody has the same right, but probably not the same power. Judy.
It's hard to direct many questions in what you say, so I'm not sure if this is in a direct answer or simply a pondering. We do have different types of power and different ranks of power, but if we focus on equalizing it out sort of as a mathematical process, we get caught up, I think, in the wrong type of questions. I think it's about learning that each person is called to develop in their own power and to find their own strengths and to contribute to the community, and also in understanding our own privilege, how that impacts on other people and might silence other voices. So we're also called to use our skills and power to empower other people. So we're trying not to hide our power or deny our power, but to figure out how to use ourselves as that tool within community to make the whole community stronger. That was sort of one idea that I had, that it's not something to be ashamed of. It's just to really be self-aware, and to use that power not for personal interest, but for community interest. Another part of my life, or hat that I wear, or whatever, is as a parent, but also working in the community with children around disability or neurodiversity, or just the sense of working with people who are living with some type of quote disability within community, and how to engage people and have people live to their fullest with whatever the skills and abilities that they have. So with a lot of times it just means giving space to people. For example, say if they have a difficulty with speaking, their voice, they will literally just be silent because they can't catch up, they can't follow the conversation quickly enough, they may have trouble expressing ideas, and so that the group the broader group has to leave space and structurally change the way they do work in order to recognize that the person's contributions are not because they don't have any ideas or that their ideas are weak or poor or whatever, but that they just need some accommodation in terms of participating. So this idea of, I think, accommodations and it is also, it's about breaking down barriers, which will allow people to have the power that they have intrinsically.
Yeah, thanks very much, Judy. I think it's an extremely important topic, and I realize that a lot in the groups I'm working in or in my community as well. There are some people who are very fast and can precisely express what they mean, and then there are others, for whatever reason, take much more time and are not so fast, but they do have good ideas how to integrate all that. There was a conversation in the chat. Franz, I see you, just 1 minute. Nice to see you anyway. And Jerry was mentioning the dynamics of male rational attitude, and there were also some response on it, and it seems to be or I guess it is a very important issue. And maybe Jerry, you can share a little bit about your experience in your community and why became it a topic.
Yeah, I mean, gender dynamics is one of the ones that, are just everywhere. What what I basically am writing in the chat is, always just keep putting this conversations on the agenda, make it visible. And so on last Thursday in our circle, community life circle, we talked about gender dynamics and our perception of that. Some men's voices come with exactly what Pare wrote in the in the chat. It comes with a certain, I know what I'm talking about. And they may know what they're talking about, but they are also delivering a second message, not just their content, but they're delivering a message about their relationship with the other person. Like, I know more than you, I am better than you, I am more important than you, you're stupid, or whatever, so, and I think that's where, we need to give feedback. It's important to say, okay, this is what I'm hearing you say, and I hear it makes sense, and I want to tell you, if you're willing to hear, what the impact on me is when you say this in this way. And do it now before they become a full member of the community and live there and ruin your life for the next 40 years. So you want to make sure that they're going to adapt a bit, or maybe they're not appropriate to the group because it's no fun being with them. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. Franz, you raised your hand quite a while ago.
Yes, what I want to say is that the basic problem is that in some ways we want to be different, and in other ways we don't want to be different. Some of the power issues are about expertise and strength and things, the power to actually do things. And we actually, I think, to create an efficient and an effective community, we need to acknowledge that those people who have lots of power in certain areas, they would be fine to do that, to express that, and then in the particular areas where the power dynamics are crucial, and that's particularly in anything that has to do with policies and with conflict resolution. We need to have a space of a dominance-free conversation. And that's the governance meeting, and to establish that so that it is actually dominance-free, and say what are the conditions to participate here, because the rules of sociocracy are pretty clear. You can make initiatives without having a good arguments. But if you want to resist anything, you have to have good arguments, and they have to be reasonable. And these are the conditions that that everybody can sort of adapt to, because these are the ones that are possible. But if we are trying to measure people's power in general against each other, then we get into this situation where we're afraid of power as such, and then we get weak. Then we get undecisive. And I think one of the important things is to make it a clear distinction between operational decisions, where we want people to take decisions on what they are good at, and then we have policy decisions where we want to be in that space of equality and non-dominance. But if we don't make that distinction and everything is in the same space, then we really get a problem. I think we need to recognize that we both want the equality and the difference.
Yeah, thanks, Franz. I saw a lot of people nodding. Yeah, thanks very much for this comment. Then John was sharing in the chat from his consultancy role. John, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I was just saying, when I'm in a consulting role, part of my job, what I'm being paid for, is to say the things nobody dares say and to break the tension that nobody wants to break. And, you know, I mean, first of all, I want to encourage the group to up their own transparency level. That's a foundational value, at least as I work with Sociocracy. So, you know, it's a push and a support for, like, try this yourselves, and I'm here. Maybe you're a little safer feeling because I'm here, and you can blame me if it doesn't go well. But you know, at some point, and I had this experience a while back with a community where me just saying the thing that none of them dared to say kind of broke the tension and created an opening for them to then have more their own conversation about it. So, you know, there's a value in having an external voice, even if it's not, you know, a official consultant person. But, you know, if we go back to the jester in the king's court, you know, the fool who can say all the things that nobody else is allowed to say. That's one way that I work with it, is to just, you know, I'm being paid to be that person who says what none of you want to say right now. So I'll throw that in.
Yeah, and you have the consent of the group, I guess. So you're a trusted person. Yeah, that's a special role. Well, that's what I really like in the Sociocracy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the consent until I don't. But
yeah, but that's a risk.
Yeah.
But in Sociocracy, really, that we have to consent the facilitator, and then you really have the right and also the power to say probably some things which are not so nice, but necessary to be spoken out. Thank you very much, John. Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe try and elaborate on this kind of idea of clarity about when you're making a procedural decision and when you're making more sort of community-oriented decisions. And yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of classifying of models of fairness, but you know, there's this sort of obvious model of fairness, which is everybody has exactly the same voice, and then there's a sort of historical model of fairness, which is that those people with more experience, knowledge, have a louder voice in light of their, you know, more depth kind of knowledge of the subject or whatever. And then there's a forward-looking model of equality, which is that people who perhaps have less experience or are newer or are disadvantaged in some way, have lower rank, we explicitly give them more voice in order to kind of compensate for their position. And so, yeah, my point is to be clear in, and I think communities use all three models of fairness at various points in, you know, the various types of things you're trying to do. And to just be clear about what is the model of fairness that you're trying to kind of use in this decision-making process. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, thanks very much, Christopher. I have one last question to us as a group. I'd like to reflect a little bit on. That's the question of how do you deal with your privileged facilitator? We have the group and different positions in terms of rank and power, and I wonder if this is a topic for you. I mean, John was partly already talking about this aspect, but maybe there's some more experiences here, or also some practice. Because especially I only can speak from a German perspective, really, when it comes to sociocracy, because that's where I work. And I'm quite often invited into intentional communities who used to work with consensus. And they're very much on the level that we as a group in a plenary session can handle all the situations. Then after a couple of years, they realize, okay, it's taking longer and longer and less people appear on a plenary session. And they ask external consultants like myself to join. And then when I introduce consent and sociocracy, there is this reaction, whoa, there is some sort of hierarchy, and we have to talk about that. And when it comes to situations like the elections, and I make a proposal, then there is, whoa, how do you dare to propose something like this to us? I mean, with your power of making a proposal, you're in a very powerful situation, and I'm not sure if I'm fine with that. So I wonder if you have experienced that and how you deal with it. Maybe you can share something here as well. Maybe for me, I can say, because I'm aware of this, I make it very transparent beforehand, especially when it comes to elections or to difficult decision-making processes, that when people are not so experienced with sociocracy, especially in the beginning, I make it very clear that I'm invited here to guide through the process, and that I'm in a power position to a certain aspect, that I can make a proposal. That's part of my job. And definitely, I mean, I want to come back, so I try to really feel into the group, and I try to speak out what I feel. And it's not that I want to move it in one way or in another, but that I try to be very sensitive and feel into the energy of the group, and then come up with my proposal and speak about these things. But yes, it's a power position, so people have to accept it. And yeah, I wonder how you deal with similar situations, Teal.
Yeah, what I thought about was some of the people, Jesus people, were in this research group we were in when we were trying to figure out how to potentially use sociocracy. And when in that research group, we needed leadership, or like a way to make decisions even in the process of researching it. So then we tried to like propose, like, hey, could we select a core team sociocratically so that we can do this work if more efficiently, because it was like a group of like 15 people. But that process, because we didn't have much experience with it, it was kind of overwhelming to the group. So then like it's like, well, then that's going to give those people power, and how do we, and so we were scared of the power of selecting a group that would, so then we bailed on it. But by not selecting a core group, we defaulted to a worse power structure, which was me and the other person just making all the decisions anyway. So it's like, it's just fun. It's just like a non-decision about power, about, dividing power well is a decision. So that power is going to go somewhere. And so it was an interesting situation. Yeah. So it gave too much power to the facilitators, basically, in that case. And that was really hard.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I saw people nodding, probably having had the same experience, or at least can understand your situation. Yeah, anybody else? And or I don't know, there's still space for like one or two more and then I would like to sum it up and to finish this round, so we all have like 5 or 10 minutes before the next session starts.
Yeah, I can add another comment.
Thanks, John.
One, I put something in the chat, so I won't repeat that, about something called progressive stacking that I encountered a group using. But in terms of the facilitator role, like when we're doing trainings, it's so consistent. What I describe as the projection of power on the facilitator. So we constantly remind people the power of the facilitator is only by consent of the circle, right? But most people are used to a facilitative role that has some other kind of power. So that's one thing I do, is just keep reminding people, you can object to what that person is doing. You can propose to remove that person from the role if you think they are overstepping their bounds. And, that's part of being a facilitator, is accepting that possibility and working, as somebody said in the chat very well, to serve the circle and the meeting process rather than to serve any other particular agenda. So I just wanted to point that out. People don't realize, I think, that they're projecting either their fear of facilitator power, their desire for facilitator power. Projection comes in so many flavors, but I see that happening a lot. And so I'll just call that out transparently. And that seems to help sometimes.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. And this discussion showed me also that most of us here shared some experiences. Thanks very much for being so open and frank. It's not always nice to mention these topics, but I personally think it's an extremely important topic. And yeah, thanks very much for sharing. I hope we could at least realize that we are not alone with this, and that it's something we should at least make transparent, talk about, think about, and reflect our own role. Thank you very much for participating. It was only like a short, more like a community of practice, or like changing and exchanging ideas here. Thanks to everybody. I have roughly 8 minutes to before the next session starts. If you want to leave something in terms of feedback here in the chat, you're more than welcome. And if not, that's also fine. And yeah, in the name of Sociocracy for All, thank you very much for participating.
Might be a good time for anybody to take their bio breaks, etc. if you're going to continue, or if you want to hang out for a few more minutes because you've got the time and attention, you're welcome to be here until.
Yeah, I will be here. I just I've seen in my project description that it's only until 6:15.
One other thing that I notice, I created I focus an importance on the moment of consenting to the agenda if I'm facilitating. So it's like, okay, this is whoever prepared the agenda. It might have been me or somebody else, but this is the moment where we all collectively say yes or no to the agenda. And then there's no, you can't really complain about somebody's manipulating things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We usually don't take so much. I mean, yes, we consent them, but I think quite often people don't read them properly. And
yeah, and this is for meetings as opposed to trainings, which is different thing.
Friends?
I also think that the moment where you consent to the facilitator is very important. To have a clear contract about what are the powers of the facilitators that are legit, because the facilitator needs to have some kind of power and has to have some purpose and have some methods that are accepted. Because if people are not clear about what the purpose of the facilitation is, then you end up having to maybe say, okay, if this is how it works, I can't facilitate, and then you just have to sit down. But generally, if you have a situation where people are imagining that everybody should everything should have the same value and everybody should have all that, then it becomes a mess. The purpose is the most important thing, and the purpose of the community, the agenda, the point of issue, or things like that. And to make that distinction, the facilitator is crucial, and he needs to have an accepted role of power to correct things when they're not going the way they are. And if if you don't have consent to that, then you're not going to succeed in anything.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, thank you. Close this room. Kevin, where are you based? From Denmark?
Hood River, Oregon.
You're in Oregon. Okay. So thanks very much for participating, and have fun.